we did something last time we did something unusual, which is that we introduced the tool and then you went and did your own private study on the tool. So that's why I'm going to check today whether there were any questions about it. So 70/30, little recap to begin with. Let's bounce into that. I'm just going to show the tool and quickly just recap what we discovered last time. So 70/30, it's interesting us talking about writing letters and thank you letters. Is that in your 70 or 30? That's the little link I'm going to make tenuously. So some people love to sit down and write a letter. Other people find that quite a draining enterprise, and that might be in their 30. So what we said was when you see lots of tasks in your 30%, maybe too many, more than 30, the questions you want to be asking yourself are these. Is there anything here I can outsource? I can get someone else to do it. Is there anything I could swap with someone? You do that for me and I'll do that for you, and then we're all happy. Or is there anything I could trade up? Trade up being do the same thing, but do it in a different way. Do it in a way that is more energizing. So that's the example I just gave is for one of my sons, writing is really draining. The other one actually likes writing, doesn't have a problem with writing cards. So to the one for whom writing is draining, that's why we tried the video message method. Said, okay, well, you love speaking, so why don't you speak into the phone instead, and we'll send that. So how can we do something, get the task done, achieve the same aim in a different way that actually turns it from a 30 activity to a 70 activity? So I'm just going to come off the share and I'm coming back into the group. I'm just doing a check on this one because you had some time to do it on your own. Would anyone like to come off mute and just share something that they learned? Or did you actually find something that you could trade up, you could outsource, or you could swap? Or have you done a next step on the journey towards that? Any progress with this or any questions?
Mhm. So, one of my things was kind of creativity, big sky, kind of strategic kind of thinking. I find that a little different, partly because I'm a reflector and stuff like that. So, in my one-to-one, I spoke to Melinda about kind of having time in advance to kind of prep. So, I know that's not outsourcing it, that's not training it up, but it's trying to work as to how to be a little bit more efficient so I can have time to think and not have to just think on my feet side of things. And then outsourcing was things like my safeguarding queries or things like that. We have 318 that I can ring for support and actually using that resource rather than thinking it's all on me and getting a bit stressed and overwhelmed because it normally has to be quite quick again, which as a blue, I like my time. So
Mm.
outsourcing and using 318, the employment lawyer, things like that with that support. So they were my kind of takeaways.
They are brilliant, Hannah. Absolutely brilliant. They will make so much difference. So for you, solving a safeguarding problem alone is definitely in your 30, but solving it using the organization that's being provided might not feel so heavy. It might even be something you find energizing because you know you're helping people in that way. Likely as well, blue sky thinking without prep goes in your 30. But blue sky thinking with time to consider in advance might actually become a 70. So we are swapping, changing, and we are upgrading, outsourcing. Anyone else got anything, however small, that they have resolved to do?
I did a one-to-one this week, and instead of doing it in the environment that we've always done it in, I took them out of where they do it and did it in a different part of the building. And I found there was much more concentration and not, oh, I'm in the workshop, I'm looking around here like this. And I did it, I
Yeah.
thought if I do it in a meeting room, there's um less distraction really. And it went so much better. And I could say
Yes.
things that I been needing to say, and it went a lot better. So I was quite pleased with that, and I'm going to use that going forward and not, go back to where I normally do it. So yeah.
Sarah, that is such a great trade up. Well done. That is so brilliant because you've just got above it and gone, okay, how could I do this differently to make it work better? They are brilliant examples. Great. Okay, any other questions or thoughts on 70/30 before we dive into this week's tool, Peace Index? No, great. Keep going with it. It's a great one to do with anybody. We've been doing it with our 12 and 13-year-olds, haven't we, Claire? So that's going really well, really fun, 11 and 13-year-olds. So it works with anyone. So think about one to use with your people, particularly if you've got someone in your team who is saying, I'm feeling drained, I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed, I can't see the wood for the trees. Bring out the 70/30, go through it with them and find one thing that they can move from 30 to 70, and it will really change their life. Okay, Ace. So bouncing now into the Peace Index and our mindset for this week. So our mindset from the Bible is this lovely verse from John. Do not let your hearts be troubled. Do not let your hearts be troubled. Do not let your hearts be troubled. I've put that in capitals because that suggests that our hearts not being troubled is not going to be a passive thing. It suggests that, yes, there may be a sense in which we need to stop and have silence and allow and receive the peace of God, which passes all understanding, for sure. And that's an active thing, isn't it, to create space? But it might also mean something slightly more intentional than just waiting or just receiving. It might mean us actually needing to do some work. God calls us, doesn't he, to be partners with him in creation, to be partners with him, to be co-workers with him. So there may be some work for us to do to move towards a place where our hearts might be less troubled. And that is a nice mindset and context for the Peace Index today. This is the work of looking at our lives in a 360 so that we can try to have less troubled hearts. And the idea with this is that there are 3 areas of our lives. Sorry, 5 areas. It used to be 3. 5 areas of our lives that we could just do a little deep dive on to see and just to check whether there's peace or not. So as we go round, be checking the notes you made last time and just be saying to yourself, do these still apply, or would I make any changes? So I'll do a recap, and hopefully this will clarify and go a bit deeper for you. So our peace, according to the Peace Index, is made up to some extent of these 5 metrics. We're going to start at the top. Purpose is the first one. So our peace will be affected if we don't feel that the work we are doing, whether that's voluntary, whether that's at home, whether that's at work in a paid capacity, is meaningful. If our work doesn't feel meaningful, if our work doesn't line up with our experience and with our skills and our aptitudes and our wiring, then we will have a low peace score for purpose. When would it be high? Well, it will be high when people feel, or when I feel, that what I'm doing feels like it means something. It feels like it's contributing in some way towards others, towards community, towards society, towards progress, whatever it is that actually floats my boat, it is actually contributing and it's moving things forward in the way that matters to me. So have a feel around with your purpose. And we're thinking today, but we're also thinking, in a context of this week, this month, and so on. Do you feel that what you do is worth getting up for? That's your purpose score. Give it a score out of 100. Next, we have the place score. Your place is geography. Your place is your home. Do you have a space within your home where you can work? Do you feel you can breathe at home? Are things in a state where you feel your home is a place that is conducive to you living well? And then what about your place of work as well? What's the distance like between where you are at home and where you work? What's the commute like? What's the location like? Do you like the spaces that you have to work within? Even where your desk is that a good place for you to have? Is it a place where you feel you can get on with things and where you feel connected to the extent that is required for you? So place, do you have access to the things you want to have access to? Do you live in the country where you want to live? Or is there somewhere else that's tugging your heartstrings? So have a little feel around. It's 360, so it's not just work, it's home as well. How happy? How peaceful does it feel about your place? What's your place score today? Give it a score out of a percentage. Thirdly, then we have provision, and provision is resource. Do you have the resources you need to do the things you want to do, to have the lifestyle that you would like to have, to be able to flourish, to provide for your family, if you're providing for your family or yourself, in the ways that you feel are right and good for you? So, to what extent does your resourcing cover your dreaming space? So, give that one a score as well. And with that, the data actually suggests that people aren't motivated by high pay, but they are demotivated when pay isn't enough, when they don't feel they've got enough resource. That's a demotivator. But for lots of people, pay isn't a motivator in itself if it just keeps increasing. So, fourthly, we have personal health. And personal health requires you to think about physical health. How physically healthy are you? How is your sleep? How is your nutrition? How is your exercise? Do you feel healthy physically? And then it's also your spiritual, mental, and emotional health as well. To what extent do you feel you can process your feelings? How do you cope when stressful situations arise? Do you feel as though you have good ways of processing things that could feel challenging, like anxiety and things that come along? So, personal health, give that a percentage as well. And finally, we have people. So, what about the people in your life? So, start with your closest, your nearest and dearest, your most important family and friends. And then think about your team members as well at work. And then think about your wider group of friends, community, neighbours, and so on. And just have a feel around. Are there any relational dynamics there that are causing you a bit of friction or concern that might bring your people score down? And try and just look at all of them and think, overall, this is my score. So I hope that might have just helped you just to look again at those 5 aspects. And then what we want you to do, if it's okay, because weighing things, measuring things can really help us to make a step forward. So give it a percentage. So an average, divide it by 5% would be good. And sometimes that depends on your outlook on life. Some people do tend to give it a higher score than others, and that's absolutely fine. Let's come back into the room now. So before we go into breakout, where I'll ask you to share your peace score and the reason you gave your score, does anyone have any questions about the peace index? Anything that wasn't clear or they'd like to clarify? No? Great. So it's time, if we get the breakouts ready, to chat with someone else in a deep way about this. And I'd like you to look for 2 things. I'd like you to share what the score you gave and why. And then secondly, what is your key indicator? And if you've done the prep, you'll know that the key indicator is the P that really matters to you. And that's one we need to look at. We need to think about very much. What's your key indicator? So for some people, it's people. You know, as long as my people are fine and my relationships are good, I'm fine. For others, it might be their place really matters to them where they are. So share your score, why, and your key indicator, and we'll see you back in about 8 minutes. Coming back in.
Hello.
Hello, everybody. Love it. I hope that was helpful, just speaking out loud, processing it with someone. Yeah, lots of nods. Great. So I'd love to hear from Kate first.
Yeah, so I was saying I was a bit and ahhing as to what my key indicator was between purpose and people. I think they're both very important to me out of sort of the top 5, but in the end I sort of concluded purpose, but mainly because I was sort of reflecting on times sort of in my life when I've realised I haven't been working to my purpose and noticed how that sort of negatively impacted the other groups.
Yes.
So in terms of like, I mean, I do also think probably part of my purpose is like wanting to care well for people. So that's sort of technically a bit of both.
Yeah.
But sort of if there's been times where perhaps I'm not feeling like motivated or that I'm working to things that I passionate about is then sort of sometimes, my stress levels have been high, or I'm not caring for myself well, am I nurturing my relationships well, all those sort of things. So that's sort of how I reached the conclusion that purpose is probably my key indicator. And
So
then
helpful, Kate. Thank you. And actually, I should have said, you can have two indicators because they're so utterly kind of entwined. And that sounds like that's a great example.
oh, fab, thank you. And yeah, score, I think I sort of got about an average of 80%, which I'm happy
Amazing.
with. So
Well done. Good.
yeah, as I was saying, obviously it is sort of an interesting time for me to do this in terms of
Mm,
being in a new place. So
mm, mm,
obviously I've sort of moved to the area with the ticking the boxes of things
mm,
that, yes, it's
mm,
convenient and
mm,
looks like a nice area, but obviously that sort of then impacts the people
mm,
section of like making new friendships, but also being sort of geographically further
mm,
from
mm,
sort of existing relationships and whatnot. So yeah, it's been quite interesting sort of doing it with
Good.
that in mind as well.
That's great. Well, hold that thought, Kate, 'cause we're going to get into some next steps shortly, which sounds like it might be helpful for you and some of
Thank
the
you.
other areas. Rich, let's hear from you.
Yeah, me and Carl had a good chat. We talked around how interconnected they all are.
Mm, mm,
Um, and that made the key indicator or two key indicators tricky.
mm,
And I kind of pushed that a bit. At first, I was like, it's people. But if you removed provision
mm,
and all of a sudden, like, it's really hard to provide for the people, but
mm,
it's provision that's driving what the relational breakdown with the people is because I'm not
mm.
providing for my kids and for my family. Uh, um, yeah, so I think I'd like idealistically wanted to say people and purpose, but I think it probably is provision, to be honest with you,
Mm, mm.
because
Good
that kind
view.
of underpins
Mm,
everything else.
yeah.
Like if you switch the lights off, we all become really nasty.
Yeah.
The toilet roll thing with COVID showed that. So yeah,
Love that. Thank you,
yeah.
Richard. That's really helpful insight, and I love that example of provision being a really important key indicator, and that might be one to think on a bit more as well. Great, Karen. Let's hear from you, please.
Sorry, I was on mute. I couldn't find your keep find your button.
Okay.
Um, I can see where everyone's going, like provision, but yeah, for me, it's definitely people as well. As
Mhm.
long as your people around me, your family, friends, your team are all happy, I think it raises your overall score. Yeah, so definitely people,
Mm, mm,
and provision.
mm. And what was your score overall? What was your average, Karen, if you don't
Um,
mind sharing?
I believe it was about 70, I
Mhm,
believe.
mhm,
Yeah. So yes, really sort of a number of sort of factors sort of recently sort of affected that.
mm,
Um, I mean, it's got a lot better now to what it was like sort of a year ago. I mean, a lot of people who I work with knows, well, I've had a daughter who's been bullied at school. I've got a
mm.
mother-in-law that's really poorly. So it does sort of affect the overall score, I believe. Hmm.
Yes, and that's huge, especially if people
Yes.
is your key indicator. That's going to affect
Yes.
everything. Bless you. That's huge. Let's hear one more comment before we go into the next part. Everybody will get to talk at some point. Let's hear from Carl.
So I was with Richard there.
Yeah.
Both of our scores were very similar, just one number away. But yeah, we sort of agreed they're all interconnected.
Mm,
For me, I think people and health are probably my top two
mm,
indicators.
mm,
But yeah, we make good points on provision. If you're not earning enough
mm,
money,
mm,
then your place is going to be lower, most likely,
mm,
because where
mm,
you want to live or the environment you want to live in
mm,
probably won't be
mm,
suitable because you don't have enough money, and then obviously that impacts the people too.
mm, mm,
Um, you might then get a job that earns more money, but then have no purpose. So it all sort of
mm,
kind of intertwines. But I think
mm,
it's been a good
mm,
exercise to kind of look at that, and
mm,
understand how they all interconnect.
Brilliant. Thanks, Carl. That sets me up really nice for the next bit where we're going to say, okay, what do we do with this? We've measured our areas, we've looked at these 5 different areas, and we've given a score for each. And we've thought about which one matters to us the most. what do we do next? And this is where the core process comes in, which you'll have come across before, certainly in the prep session. So let me just show you what that looks like and how we work through it, just in case that was a little bit clunky. So sorry, I was showing Carl the platform, which we can come back to in a second. So this is where we think a little bit more about the Peace Index, and we look at the 5 scores and we ask ourselves this question: which of those P's most needs our attention? Which of these P's most needs my attention? And the 2 things to bear in mind there will be your key indicator. If that's lower than 80, you want to try to get that up, because that will affect everything, and that is the way you're wired, means that that's going to really impact you, a lot more than any of the others. And the second one is, which are the lowest scores? Okay, look at your 2 lowest scores, your lowest percentages, and ask yourself which of those perhaps just needs me to, maybe you can actually do something with both of them. That would be great. But just for today, as a minimum, focus on the one that most needs your attention, especially if your key indicator is your lowest score. So what small pattern change can we make to improve our score in this area? And this is where we use the core process to help us move from seeing there's a problem to actually working through a solution. And this can be a small or a big thing. Let me give you 2 examples. Call it means, which area do I need to focus on? And when we say call it, we're thinking about what is it I need to focus on? So for me, when I did this Peace score, I thought it's my emotional health. That's the aspect that's bringing down my personal health slightly. Physical health's great, spiritual health's great, but my emotional health, I'm not always processing my emotions that healthily. So that's my call it. Own it is, how am I contributing to this? What am I doing or not doing that is contributing to this low score? So it's the why. Why have I picked emotional health? And for me, it's that I haven't had a session with my spiritual director for 2 months. Okay, that's on me. That's my responsibility. So response is, how am I going to move this forward? Well, I'm going to contact my spiritual director, make some contact, email her, and try and get a session ASAP. And then we move to execute. It's not enough for me just to say, I am going to do this thing. We need to say when. So execution is when. So call it is the what, own it is the why, respond is the how, and execute is the when. When am I going to do it? So I'm going to do it today. Today is my deadline. I'm going to do that today, and I'm accountable to all of you for that. Okay, you can ask me next week, did you do it? And I will have to answer that. So that's a small one. Another quick example, calling it a few years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, I did this, and my call it was place. The place score was low. Own it. Why? Because I hadn't thought enough about the fact that my kids didn't have a place to play when it was wet outside. They're very physical. There was balls flying around all over the house, and it was getting me down. And I was thinking, what can I do? My response was to chat to James about what we might do to create an all-weather space for the kids. And the execution was, we built a small astro in the garden. Would you like to see? I'm going to come off this share. Who'd like to see the astro? Are you ready? We're coming round, okay? Here is the little astroturf in the garden. Oh my word, it is an absolute godsend. We now have an all-weather 24/7 access, because we have a floodlight play area for the kids, and we can just sling them outside, go and run off that energy. I spent all summer bowling balls for my younger son Laurie, who got into cricket. So absolutely loads of fun. So that was a really good one, and that came from literally a core process. Like, what can we do? We built a dream, and that was a long term, that's a biggie, but there's also those small things like the earlier example I gave you. Okay, so any questions on core process before you chat this out with your breakout friend? No? Great. Right, off you go. A few minutes for this one, and then we'll hear from people who haven't shared yet when we come back on try and find a next step. How was that for you?
Fine, thank you.
Did you get any next steps?
Well, I said to Claire, I wasn't quite sure I'd fully understood what I had to do, but I did
Mm.
it. And it was like going back to like the team. So for me, people are my low, dealing with people, and I think that's just where I'm at the moment. You know, things have gone on at home, and that's been difficult. Um, but dealing with people in the office, and it was like I don't like confrontation. But it's
Mm.
like Claire said,
Mm.
it's not confrontation. It's what was it you said it was?
Well, I asked you the question if it was that you didn't like confrontation or you didn't like what you were perceiving as being criticized or attacked when.
That's right. But it
Mm.
was the way things are done, isn't it?
Mm.
It's like doing it in a constructive way. So like when I meet with my team, it's be constructive rather than whoa, when I go and this isn't happening and this isn't happening. It's like, well, how can I help? What are we not achieving and what needs to be done? And that was really, really, I found that really helpful.
Oh, good. Good. Well, like you found with the 70/30, you just changed a small thing and it made a big
Yeah.
difference. See if you can do that with Peace Index as well. Is there one thing that could change within particularly that lowest score that you could give it a
Yeah.
try something new. Love it. Thank you, Sarah. That's so good. Leanne, let's hear from you.
Oh, yeah, I struggled a little bit with trying to find like an actionable thing. Kind of similar to the conversation that I had last week. I have come to the conclusion that a lot of it is more about attitude than actual things that can change. Like I was saying to Alex, there's tons of stuff in my life right now I can't actually do much
Mm,
about. It is kind of what it is.
mm,
And I think some of it is just accepting that that's the season that I'm in and
mm,
seeing the
mm,
gift that's in those things and then accepting that there's other
mm,
things that I can't really do much about. Um,
mm.
yeah, it's probably kind of where I landed.
Which area was it that you were focusing on, Leanne, so I can give an example?
My lowest one is purpose,
Yeah.
which unfortunately is probably my key indicator as well. So that's
Mm,
rather
mm,
unfortunate. Um,
mm,
but yeah, I think probably just accepting that that's kind of how it is for now,
mm,
but also
mm,
seeing that, particularly in the job sphere, the job does really help with the personal provision. So
mm, mm, mm,
probably need to keep getting paid, and that is
mm.
helpful.
Mm. Very good. Sometimes it can be a case of putting some time into seeking that area. So perhaps, if you're a person of prayer, it's praying into that area. Or could you show me what the purpose is in what I'm doing now? Or move me into a place where I'm doing something more purposeful. There's also something called laddering up, which can be really helpful for people for whom vision is really important, is asking yourself, what is the best possible outcome of what I'm doing today? And what's the best possible outcome of that? And keep going until you get to a massive purpose, seeing what you do as part of the ripple effect that can actually lead to some really big, important things happening in the world. Because we're just cogs, aren't we, in the wheel of God's plan and of good things. We are just a cog. We all just do contribute in some way towards something. So being able to see the big picture, not just the small thing you're doing, can be super, super encouraging. So spending some time perhaps looking into that, talking perhaps with someone, listening to a podcast, even you coming on this course is actually you focusing on some purpose as well. So that's really good, Leanne. Well done. Let's hear from Larissa.
Hello. Um, my lowest one was also purpose. But unlike Leanne, my highest one is actually people, and I'm not massively bothered about purpose. So I'm not sure whether I got a lower score because because it's not quite so important to me. But also just so outside of work, I I'd had quite a big area of responsibility. I was the chair of the trustee board of my children's school for 8 years,
Mm.
and it had got to the point where it was actually I was feeling quite broken by that process, just because of the nature of the role that you basically have to deal with all the horrible things because all the normal things get dealt with by everybody else. and I'd taken the decision, interestingly, not because of, but we had done this, the 70/30 thing. We actually did it within our team at work a couple of years ago. And my plate was very unbalanced. And I definitely recognized, I'd kind of come to that realization anyway that I needed to step down from that role because it's like a voluntary thing, but I felt like it was kind of taking up all of my headspace, and not really helpful for kind of balance with family and my actual job either. So I kind of stepped down from that role about 18 months ago, and I think it's probably taken me about a year to unwind from that, kind of the stress levels of it. So actually within kind of work, like I'm happy with the role that I have, but in terms of like feeling like I'm being driven by a particular purpose in life, I'm almost actually quite happy to not have that feeling for a while. Like I'm kind of enjoying feeling a bit more relaxed and not feeling like, oh, I've got lots of like more plates spinning than I feel like I can keep upright. So good. I'm quite happy with having a bit of a chill purpose so that I can focus a bit more on kind of family and my actual job.
Love that. So it's a bit of a reframe really of purpose, isn't it? Rather than finding your purpose in contributing within the community, finding your purpose in some of those simpler things like being present at home that you mentioned last week as well. I love that. That's really good. Alex.
Hey, it was good to do the peace thing. It was really, really interesting. Generally, all of mine tend to skew pretty high. Purpose up in the 90s, all of them are pretty good. It was just the kind of people category that really dragged it all down. But it was interesting to unpack some of that because Leanne was my little breakout room buddy, so we had a good time unpacking some of that. And the people one specifically is quite tough because it's not something that can change or is going to go away or anything like that. But it was helpful to think about. There are some small things that kind of help, but not really. And so what did help was to see it as kind of a bigger picture, long-term thing, and saying to yourself, well, if right now there aren't a series of small things that are really going to make any difference, if I set myself a sort of not time limit, but something like that, and say, well, if things really aren't much better in say 6 months or a year or something like that, then it's really worth considering perhaps making bigger decisions. If the smaller things really aren't helping, really aren't doing anything, if nothing is shifting out of that 30 category, then maybe we've got to be brave here.
Very good. So log your score for now, and then set yourself a calendar schedule to come back to it at that time, whether it's 8 months, 12 months, and do another, without looking back at what that score was, do another 70/30, and that will be your judge. Has it improved? Because weighing it will really help you and give you that data you need to make a decision rather than just feeling in the air. Nice. Really good, Alex. Love that. Thank you. Okay, we're going to circle back to Rich now. Anything from you?
Yes, Laura. Let me think. I think
Hannah, I'm just going to say, Hannah, we're coming to you next. I'll give you a chance to think.
I think purpose is probably the P that needs the most attention. I think where me and Carl had a good chat around is like, I like the example you gave, Laura, and that's things that are easily to change because they're in your quick sphere of influence. Like I've made a bunch of changes around personal health in the last year because I can input time to make exercise happen. Work is harder to change. And Bible Society isn't like full of people just sat around not doing anything. You kind of got to just do a bunch of stuff that you've got to do. So, I don't have the core process is good, but I don't have an actionable thing on it right now. I need to reflect more on that. Yes.
Yeah, that's great. And that's where I think I'll call us into the interplay between Peace Index and 70/30. So we get that you can't outsource what you do to lots of people who are sitting there saying, give me some stuff to do because everybody's busy. But could there be a swap? Could there be a balance if you've got someone with a different colour to you in your team? Could there be a bit more of a redistribution of things? Could there be that trade up? So, for example, my husband James has planning in his 30 when it's planning on his own. But when it's planning with someone, it's in his 70. So that has revolutionized for him that whole plan, the things he has to plan, the sort of one-off things he does, making sure he's got someone that he can do that together with, is as much as he can. That's made it. He's moved it from 30 to 70. So trading up, changing the way we do stuff. And actually talking to others. That's why some of these spaces are going to be great over this year, because there's going to be so much good practice and ideas that will be shared here already. That's coming through. So that's exciting. Hannah.
So overall score is 69, but the lowest one that I got to deal with is the personal health category. So I had a good kind of conversation with Larissa about kind of the plans of following the doctor's guidance and things like that to help with the condition. But also then Larissa gave me some good tips to strengthen my kind of plan and bits and pieces. But I've got lots of, I would hopefully try to look at smaller bits that I've got to change. That overarching should do it, but kind of the time frame is to kind of start now, but the amount of changes that the doctor needs me to do, to be fair, is probably going to be this whole of this altitude course for a year and maybe beyond. But if I do those regular kind of weekly kind of check-ins and trying to set myself up for success, but it's amazing how the personal health then knocks on all the other. It feels a bit selfish to a certain extent with everyone else kind of being purpose or people or that kind of thing, and that's others, but personal health does affect everyone that's around me. So yes,
absolutely.
Yeah, so it's
Hannah, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And Larissa, great job coaching Hannah, and that's what's going on in those groups as well. We're with you all the way, and hopefully some of these tools will provide some rich motivation as well for you throughout the year. Claire, anything to you as we land?
Just one thing, as you're going through each of the different sessions, there are like bonus podcast episodes to listen to or other bits and pieces that you can watch. And I would say that they're really beneficial. If you can habit stack whilst you're doing something that you don't like or something that you do like that is helpful, then I recommend doing that. But it just gives you an extra little bit of info on each of the sessions.
And they're good, aren't they? Those
they're really funny. They're really easy. They're sort of 24 minutes to 32 minutes ish. So they're not kind of hours and hours, and it's really useful bits and pieces as well.
Okay, so if anyone wants any questions, feel free to stay. Otherwise, adios. Lovely seeing you. Support Challenge Matrix, 2 modules to prepare for the next session, which is in 2 weeks. Shout out whenever. We're with you all the way. This is so lovely. Thank you for joining us. We love this group. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Everyone, bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.